Hi, Amanda Clark, dietitian here with some portion perfection guidance. Now, globally, we're eating too much sugar. The World Health Organization recommends that we limit sugar intake to 10% of our energy intake. Now, that's about 12 teaspoons per day or less for children. They do say, though, that getting down to 6 teaspoons per day could convey further health benefits. And I agree, and I think it's doable. The estimates are that we consume between 14 and 38 teaspoons of sugar per day, depending on what categories of the population we're looking at. And I will say that those 38 teaspoons were amongst adolescent boys. Now, one solution is substituting non-nutritive sweeteners. Now, they seem appealing because there's less calories. So I invited nutrition student Iesha Eivers to investigate the current knowledge on non-nutritive sweeteners and share this with us. Welcome, Iesha.
Hello, thank you.
Now, I'm really interested to know what you found because, there's a lot of research. It's some of it has been kind of questionable research over the years, but what was your overall kind of opinion of the quality of the research that you found, first of all?
Yeah, so certainly a lot of conflicting evidence, and I think a lot of it really depends on the type of study design. So obviously we've got observational studies and experimental studies, which are constructed quite differently. So an observational study will occur over time and they'll observe participants for a reasonable amount of time to see a link between, say in this case, non-nutritive sweeteners and certain health outcomes. The issue with observational studies is that there may be other, what we would call confounding factors, other things that might influence the outcomes. Experimental studies are generally the gold standard for looking at, risk and effect, but the limitations that come with that still exist, around they're not very reflective, I suppose, of true day-to-day life and how people would consume and live and act. So there's limitations for both.
So I guess we all need to be wary when a news report comes out of a new piece of research that shows one thing or the other, because sometimes it's about rats. Sometimes it's not us living in our usual life. It's it's putting us in a lab like we're rats and seeing what happens in that situation. So often it's not translatable, I think you're saying, to normal life. Before we get into the benefits, could you tell us a bit about what are non-nutritive sweeteners compared to sugar? What's the difference?
Non-nutritive sweeteners essentially refer to these replacements that are being used. So in your Coke Zeros or your diet, sort of anything diet related in terms of low calorie options, protein bars or snack bars are trying to be lower calorie, and so are using these non-nutritive sweeteners. A very common one is aspartame. Lots of people would have heard of that. Sucralose, there's many sort of different ones. What makes them non-nutritive, I suppose, is the fact that they either contain little or no calories whatsoever, and that's the appeal, like you said. So the difference, I suppose, is the way that they're digested in the body. So whereas sugar is broken down and absorbed and used as energy, these non-nutritive sweeteners are not really properly digested within the body. They ferment and so kind of just pass straight through almost. And that's what makes them little or no calorie.
Using that term non-nutritive sweeteners covers artificial sweeteners and what we call natural sweeteners, and stevia fits into that. But stevia can be used as a leaf, and I guess that's where it's been used for hundreds of years. But in fact, what we're using in these food products is not stevia leaf. It's the steviol glycosides, which is a very processed component of stevia. Have you picked up any difference between those?
So stevia has been studied a little bit more so within the gut microbiome realm, and that is where they have seen potentially some detrimental effects on our gut microbiome, which basically refers to the kind of ecosystem that lives within our gut and all the little microbes that are there. So either increasing or decreasing our good or bad bacteria. So stevia might have an effect on that.
What about cancer? Any link between non-nutritive sweeteners and cancer?
Yes, so a lot of those studies that potentially spoke of a link were very, very small in comparison to all of the studies these days that have found non-nutritive sweeteners to be very safe to consume.
And what about blood glucose control? Because, you know, a lot of people aim to reduce their sugar to try and reduce their blood glucose because they've got diabetes or pre-diabetes or a risk of diabetes.
Yeah, overall, there has seemed to be little or no effect on the glycemic control or blood glucose control. But one study in particular on sucralose did find a slight increased in insulin sensitivity, which may be a risk factor for type 2 diabetes. So there is some evidence, but it definitely needs to be sifted through a bit. Some more studies will need to be done on the specific non-nutritive sweeteners and potentially more longer term as well.
Okay, so that was a decrease in insulin sensitivity. Yeah. So an increase in insulin resistance. I think I've seen that as well. Yeah. I've heard about the sweet taste receptors, and that when we consume one of these non-nutritive sweeteners, which can be 200 times the sweetness of sugar, which is why we take them in such small doses, that sweet taste receptor is actually doing something. It's kind of priming the rest of our body to expect energy intake. And then if the energy doesn't come, that it drives our body to seek out more calories or more energy. What's your feeling about that as a result of your reading?
And there are studies, there is research showing that may increase the body's sort of, I guess, those senses get activated, and they do, like you said, expect sweetness coming after that. So if they're not receiving the energy, you may search for it elsewhere. So that does exist. Again, I think that research is still quite inconclusive. There hasn't been any sort of solid evidence to certainly say that non-nutritive sweeteners cause weight gain. However, there is not evidence to say that it helps weight loss either.
Yeah. So what do you do with respect to non-nutritive sweeteners?
I consume in moderation. I would rather opt for, you know, that Coke Zero that has, like about 3 to 6 calories in a can, for example, versus a full sugar can, which has probably a bit of a scary amount of sugar in there. And, you know, as you said,
10 teaspoons.
10, there you go. Yeah, I knew it was a scary amount. But, you know, like you said at the beginning, you know, too much sugar, it's very clear. It affects our health. It could be cardiovascular risk, weight gain, obviously, with all the excess energy, diabetes. There's a range.
Yeah. And I would be of the same thinking. So like 1 can of soft drink is going to take you over the 6 teaspoons straight away. So if I was in a situation where I wanted to have a drink, and I've only got a choice of sugared or artificially sweetened, I would take the artificially sweetened.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't recommend us bathing our body in it every day, because 100%. There's likely to be some effects on the microbiome. That's what the suggestion is.
Yeah.
So the less, the better.
Yeah.
In some ways, we can't avoid it, because if we're concerned about sugar, then as soon as we're choosing some of these lower sugar products, they contain some non-nutritive sweeteners. Really, the best outcome is that we don't use either, that we reduce our sweet taste, because particularly if this sweet taste is meant to be signaling other things, you know, we think that we're not affecting anything until it gets into our body, but maybe there's some more action happening at the mouth level. So yes, I would choose the artificially sweetened product occasionally. I wouldn't do it on a daily basis, or a multiple times a day basis. Probably there are some things that I consume on a daily basis. When you look at protein powders, they're filled with non-nutritive sweeteners because they're trying not to be high in sugar. Obviously, there's some more research required. But if we were to summarize, we'd say that there's no link found between non-nutritive sweeteners and cancer, that both natural and artificial versions are pretty ineffective for weight loss, so they're not our strategy, and that we're best to reduce our taste for sweet foods. That was great, Iesha. Thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you so much for having me.
This information is brought to you by Portion Perfection, a visual weight control plan using actual plates, bowls, snack containers, and recipes that fit them. In the Portion Perfection books, which are complete weight management eating plans, we aim to limit added sugars to 5 grams at a serve. So it's actually easy to stay under a 24-gram total, which is your 6 teaspoons. And we aim to alert you to any non-nutritive sweeteners amongst our recommendations so you can make your own decisions. Find us in the US on Amazon and in Australia at greatideas.net.au. We aim to help you to explore the contributing factors to your weight. I'm an advanced APD and I get to mix with some of the best minds in the industry, and I bring them to you via the Portion Perfection Professional Weight Management webinar series. If you don't already receive invitations to our webinars, you can get started by downloading a free Portion Perfection 7-day menu plan at greatideas.net.au/menu plan. And I'll see you next time.